Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemens, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemens, DC. We are live right here in the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios on this beautiful April 3rd, Thursday. Yes, Thursday, April 3rd. And we're live on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio and 1420 AM and 987radio.com. For all of our new listeners, we're on Facebook and YouTube and X. So if you, Facebook has started a new thing where they are getting rid of, I guess maybe longer than 30 days or 60 days, any videos that are on there. So they're like dropping them off of your page. And so I've got a whole year and a half of videos that are on there that are going to go away, but they're not going away on YouTube. So our YouTube channel is at Health from the Rock. And if you've missed any of these and you want to catch up on some of them, then that's where you can go find them, is at the YouTube channel at Health from the Rock, at the sign at Health from the Rock, and that's where we are on those. So hope everybody had a good day, and we've been busy right up until I think I had 4 minutes tonight, and so it was good. When you're taking care of people and you're doing live radio and you're doing live social media, which is a new thing in the world, right? You just, especially when you're taking care of people, there's all kinds of things that go on out there in the world. And sometimes people are late. Sometimes people have lots of things going on in their life, and we just adapt to it. And we take care of them, and then we come do a show. And I think it's super cool, really. I think it's cool that we have the opportunity to bring you real live clinical stuff. And I've spent a lot of time lately thinking about the show and how we can make this show better and how we can do this better. And because, it's not super popular, and I get it. And it's rather boring at times, and I get that. And sometimes the content's hard to understand, and I get that too. But it's unique in the fact that it's authentic. And it's just us talking. And I'll try to get better at talking and try to be more organized and try to make sure that we, give you a better product that just doesn't waste your time and make you want to pull your hair out for watching it and listening to it on the radio. But at least know this, that it's clinical stuff that's coming. Like, I don't really know where else it's happening. Like, it's not a show like a... I spend a lot of time looking at YouTube and Instagram and X and trying to see what other people are doing and how they're building their shows and how the other podcasts are building their shows. And there's just not a lot of it. There's some really cool ones out there. Josh Matson does a good job of showing you what's going on in his practice and how he's helping kids. But it's just it's different. It's a different format. What we're trying to do is cover everything that would fit under subluxation, and it's just a little bit of a different format, and we're working through it. So you guys that listen to it on a regular basis, I appreciate it. I know for a fact that some of you guys are getting healthier, and that's very motivating to me that's the case. And so I just hope we can keep going and try to not make it so boring that you just want to, that you're tired of the whole thing. So last night we did a show because I went on Tuesday and I spoke at the WISE group here at Lake Ridge Chapel, Memorial Designers. I think I got that right tonight. Their WISE group, Wisdom Inspired Senior Education, meets on the first and third Tuesdays of the month at 5:30. And Laura takes care of that over there. So if you need to get a hold of them, you can get a hold of them at Lake Ridge Memorial, Lake Ridge Chapel Memorial Designers, the funeral home at 82nd and Iola. It's great. It's a great program. But we did a conversation. We had a talk about mental sharpness and clarity as we age. And last night we broke down the book. I actually found these two, my book. Last night I couldn't find it because I knocked it off in the floor right up underneath me. But Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, Dr. Daniel Amen. I highly recommend the book. It's got great information in it. I highly recommend you listen to Dr. Amen on multiple, he's got lots of YouTube videos talking about his knowledge. And then, of course, The End of Alzheimer's. And again, that's Dale Bredesen, MD, great guy from a book standpoint. I never met Dr. Bredesen. I don't know if he's a great guy or not, but I appreciate his work. I appreciate what he did. And that's what we did last night. So I'm not going to redo the whole show from last night, but I am going to finish it up. And one of the things that I love about the way that he writes is it leads you into questions, and it gives you a like if you're if you're inquisitive, I guess, if it means something to you. If it doesn't mean anything to you, then nobody cares, right? Like it doesn't matter what a person says. If it doesn't mean anything to you, then it doesn't matter how fun it's written or whatever, right? But if you're really searching for something and you really want to know the answers to something, and this Alzheimer's thing is a thing, like it's dementia. One of my last patients today dealing with dementia. I asked him, "Do you know my name?" He said, "No." He said, "That's a tough one." That's what he said. I said, I've known him for probably 15 years. And I just got him back in the office here recently. But I said, "Do you know my name?" And he said, "That's a tough one." And I said, "My name is Jason." And as the whole time I was working on it, the whole time we were having this conversation, I had the vibration on his left fingertips. I was using the tuning fork on his fingertips, and I was using his eyes, and I was trying to get his eyes up. And we were talking, and he's like, "That's a tough one." And I said, "It's Jason." And then I would work on him for a minute, and I said, "Do you know my name?" And he's like, "That's a tough one." And I was like, "It's Jason." And then he repeated it, and then I kept working on him. And then when he got up and left, it was time for him to go. He went up to the front, and he turned back around, and he said, now he was on his feet. Now he was on his feet. Instead of being seated in my office, he was on his feet. And he turned back around, and he said, "I'll see you, Jason." And I was like, yes. Like, that's what I'm talking about right there. What is that? What is that? The mechanism behind that. Like if you're trying to help teach somebody, and you want to like what happened in that moment? What actually happened? And I tried to tell him a little bit, but sometimes I might tell him a little bit too much. But let's just break down right side and left side. Okay? Memory is on the right side. Memory. But language, speech, is on the left. He's like, did he remember my name and couldn't say it? Or did he not remember my name? What should either one of those things could be going on. So when I said to him, "Do you know my name?" What he was able to say was, that's a tough one. I can't remember your name. Now why? Why can't he remember my name? Where is the breakdown? Is it in his memory, but he just can't get it transferred over? Like, is the right hemisphere activating, but then it can't get over to the left side to where he could speak my name? Because when I kept activating the right side, and I kept activating the right side, I kept activating the right side, I kept activating the right side, and we started trying to ramp this up. We just kept trying to ramp up that right side by being on his left side, by working on his fingertips on his left hand, trying to fire across and what I was trying to do is I was trying to ramp it up. And it's like one of those old Model A cars. They had the crank on the front of the car. It's like you got to turn it and turn it and turn it, and then finally it kicks the engine on. Well, that's what we were doing. Or at least that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to fire the neurons, increase the energy, boom, kick it over to the right, to the left side, Jason. So he was able to, we went along there, and then when he got up and walked out, it was almost like the crank kicked in, and he did it twice. He said it, and then when he turned around to leave, he's like, "I'll see you, Jason." And I was like, "Yes." Okay, so you just take that example right there of, and I stood out in the lobby and talked to him for a second, and he tried to tell me a story, and he lost all his, he really had a hard time with his words when he was trying to tell me that story. But that's okay. I mean, it's all right. It's okay, right? It's like, it's okay. He's standing up and he's walking, and he's able to digest food, and he's able to breathe, and he's able to run his heart, and he's able to get dressed and come up to my office and be able to ride in the car and go home, and he's able to do things, right? And that's what we were saying last night when we were talking about those receptors, is we were saying that the brain only has so many resources to be able to do all of the things that it's being asked to do. And so one of the things that it decides that it's not going to do is memory. It's like, look, I can't get up and get dressed and have breakfast and get in the car and drive to your office and pump my heart and make some hormones and make sure my liver detoxifies things and get my kidney to get rid of, toxins in the body. I can't do all of those things plus memory because I don't have enough resources. And that's what we learned last night. So what happens is memory gets taken out. Now all of a sudden it's like, no, I don't have enough resources to spend any extra resources on memory. And we lose it. So what did we do? Just for a short second, we were able to give his neurons enough energy through the adjustment to be able to power up that process of kicking that memory over to the left side so that he could say my name. Like, I don't know if y'all are excited. I mean, I don't know if y'all think that is as cool as I think it is. But I think it's just amazingly cool. Like, I think that's like, okay, man, we did something today. We made it a little bit better today. Okay? So when Dr. Bredesen is talking about all this stuff, and he gets into, when he's talking about the all the things, and he gets into the recode aspect of it, he's reversing cognitive decline. That's what recode is. And I'm telling you, this is his book and his stuff, and I think you should go read his book, right? But here's the things some of the fundamental things, and what I want to do is just I want to talk through these so that we can understand how our actions affect such things as our memory. It's not just bad luck that you got Alzheimer's. It's not just bad luck that you lost your health. Maybe part of the bad luck of losing your health are the choices that we make. Maybe that's the problem. So one of the things is homocysteine, right? So homocysteine you're basically, thanks, JT. That was awesome. I was excited about that one little victory that we got today, right? So homocysteine builds up, and We're always fighting inflammation, right? And inflammation is leading to heart disease, and inflammation is leading to brain disease, and inflammation is leading to cancer, and inflammation is leading to all kinds of problems in our body, right? Like we got all these things of inflammation, and homocysteine. What we want to do, according to Dr. Bredesen, is we want to keep our homocysteine levels down. Now, one of the problems that we have, and one of the things that you really ought to think about in this particular category are your B vitamins, and especially your methylated B vitamins. And I know that's a complicated system, but the system, you need B vitamins, and you need a complete B vitamin, not just parts of B vitamins. That's where we use. I don't have the box in here, but the Cataplex B Core. It's a complete B vitamin that we use in the office. But B vitamins are processed, and if they're processed and they're working right, you will control your homocysteine levels. Okay, and then you will be able to control your inflammation, and you'll be able to control your heart disease better if those things are happening. So if your levels are over 6, and that's one of the things I have been working on since I did my blood work last year, and I'm due to do that again. I'm hoping I get that done relatively quick. But I think mine was 11 last year, and it was like that's a little higher than it needs to be. Number 2 is insulin resistance. And we know insulin resistance, we've talked a lot about insulin resistance. We talked a lot about glucose. We talked a lot about, okay, so let's just use this example because it's like, okay, reverse engineer this whole thing. What did you have for lunch? I had leftover crock pot chicken and raspberries. That's what I had for lunch. And a few pistachios and macadamia. That was my lunch. And some decaffeinated green tea, organic decaffeinated green tea with a little stevia in it. That's what's in my cup right now. Matter of fact, I need a drink. So that's what I had for lunch. Now, am I going to stimulate insulin with that lunch? Almost none at all. There's slight little bits of insulin that I might get from those raspberries, just a little bit, but not very much. There's no sugar in that. There's no sugar in it at all. So I controlled it. I controlled my sugar there. I controlled my sugar for breakfast. Hopefully I'll control my sugar for for dinner tonight. And so now what does it mean if you stretch it out and look at it from the big scheme of things, what does it mean in the Alzheimer's picture? It means that I'm working on Alzheimer's. It means that I am actively, intentionally working to try to keep myself from having Alzheimer's disease. And how do I know that? Because I went backwards from what Dr. Bredesen's saying is like, hey, you don't need to have insulin resistance. Your fasting insulin needs to be low. Your A1C, it needs to be below 5.5. Your glucose needs to be below 93. It's like, okay, those are some targets that I can work on to try to keep that level below that. And it's a target that I actually work on actively. Like, what are you having for supper right now? And if you're having anything that's spiking your glucose and you're having it on a regular basis, you're going to become insulin resistant. If you're drinking alcohol and you're attacking your liver, or you're drinking high fructose corn syrup and you're attacking your liver, or you're drinking juices and you're attacking your liver, then what you're going to do is you're going to become insulin resistant. And then as you become insulin resistant, as your A1C goes high, and as your glucose levels go high, you're increasing your risk of having Alzheimer's. Like the supper that you're eating tonight is either going to move you towards Alzheimer's or it's going to move you away from Alzheimer's. You see how it's like it's an active life that we're living. It's not, man, it's just so unfortunate. I just ended up with Alzheimer's. It's like, is it? Yes, no question. It's unfortunate. If you end up with Alzheimer's, it's unfortunate, right? That's a very sad thing. I'm not trying to be um, unempathetic or whatever towards that. I'm not trying to be at all. What I'm saying is that if we would know some of the components that would keep us from out of that, that might help us understand that this unrelenting, what was that slide? There we go. This chronic, multiple, unrelenting, and intense threat that we constantly do every day. It's just one Coke a day, Doc. It's just one Coke a day. It's like, it's just one Coke a day, chronic, multiple, unrelenting, intense threat. It's just one, I just have one sweets a day. That's it. I just do that, right? It's like, it's just one piece of bread, right? So insulin resistance, we got to control that. It's on the big parts of everything. The Keto Flex 12-3. Keto Flex 12-3. It's a really cool way that Dr. Bredesen says this. He calls it Keto Flex because he doesn't think you should be keto all the time. Keto means that your brain is not running on glucose any longer. Your brain has switched its fuel supply because there is no glucose in your bloodstream, and your brain is now running on ketones or ketone bodies, or you've got an alternate source of brain energy that you're using, or brain fuel, not energy, but brain fuel. So you got this alternate source of brain fuel in the keto, but it's Keto Flex. And what he's saying is that there's times that your brain does really well on glucose, and that's a true statement. And we've talked about that lots of times. There's times that your brain does really well on glucose. It needs glucose, oxygen, and excitability. Your brain needs that. It does really well on it. It doesn't necessarily need it. You can go straight without it, but it does really well on a little bit. And Dr. Bredesen he's the first doctor that I really heard say, in a way that I could remember it, that to give the brain a little bit of both is really healthy for the brain. A little bit of glucose, but a little bit of ketones. Like, let's stay in ketosis. Okay. So he called it Keto Flex. I think it's great. And basically, if you eat low carbohydrate, complex carbohydrates, if you eat complex carbohydrates along with berries and easy on the fruits, and you follow that type of diet, you'll be in that range. And then he says this: don't eat anything 3 hours before you go to sleep, and then try to push that 12 hours from there. Now, that's one thing that I fail on, because I finished the show at 7, and it's probably 7:15 before I get home, and I got to get all my stuff put down and change my shirt or kick my shoes off or whatever I'm going to do. And then Leslie, she goes home from work, and then she'll get supper ready before I get home tonight. In this hour that I'm doing the show, she's working on supper, and I appreciate her for that. So, but when I get home, so now I'm eating, and sometimes I don't finish eating until 8 o'clock. That's a problem for me, because it's disrupting my sleep, because sometimes I'll go to bed at 9. Because sometimes I'll go to bed at 8:45. But yeah, I'm not wild and crazy like that. But I was up here at 5:40 this morning to start fitness classes. So I need my sleep, and if I'm going to get my 8 hours of sleep, I need to try to hurry up and get to sleep. But now I'm eating late, and that's been one of the challenges for me right there. Now, what I'll do a lot of times is skip breakfast, and so I'll push that. I'll go ahead and I'll finish eating at 8. Say I get to sleep at 10. I'm 2 hours in front of there. Now, I'm not going to eat anything else before 8 o'clock. And if I can, I'll try to push that 4 more hours and get that to a 16-hour fast. That's really healthy for your brain. I hope that makes sense. to get that ketoflex going right there, and then you get your good sleep. And our guy Matthew Walker talks about sleep. I'll tell you at first, when Gary Brecka hit the scene, and he was hanging out with Grant Cardone and all that sort of thing, I wasn't too sure about some of the things that he was talking about. But the more I listen to Gary Brecka, he's saying the same things that we say. He's a little bit more detailed in some of them, and he went to chiropractic school to be a biologist. He's got a lot of the same training and background. He didn't go for the chiropractic part, but for the biology part. And he's a human biologist. And he was breaking it down the other night about how your body will, if it's having to digest food, then it's not sleeping well. So you'll disrupt your sleep by eating late and then having to digest your food through the night. And I think that I believe that that's true, because I'll deal with that sometimes, about if I eat too late, and so that's an issue right there. And then controlling the room, making sure that the room is dark, making sure that the room is cold, trying to get to bed at the same time every night. A lot of those things are very important, and it relates to Alzheimer's disease. Okay, we got to take a break. We'll be right back, and then we'll finish this up on the other side of the break. While we're on the break right now, I'm going to see if I can get a little bit better definition of metal. The metal homeostasis right there, and exactly what (211) and 213. I want to see exactly what he's talking about, metal homeostasis. I think he's talking about like copper and iron and all that sort of thing. Metal dogma holds that Alzheimer's disease is not caused by metals such as mercury, infections, hypothyroidism, low levels of vitamin D, or apparently anything else. As I explained in Chapter 4, however, there is clear evidence that cognitive decline, including Alzheimer's disease, is caused by an imbalance between synapse-preserving and synapse-destroying processes, and that dozens of factors can create the former and accelerate the latter, in many cases by acting directly or indirectly on this APP, amyloid precursor protein. The evidence is clear that APP responds to metals such as iron, copper, and zinc. Yeah, I thought that's what he meant, metal homeostasis, and so that's what he is actually talking about right there. So zinc, he recommends the following. Professor George Brewer recommends the following: 25 millimeters to 50 milligrams, 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams, but no more than 50 milligrams each day to boost zinc. The antioxidant alpha lipoic acid, 30 milligrams to 60 milligrams each day. Vitamin C, 1 gram to 3 grams, that's 1,000 to 3,000 milligrams. To chelate and remove copper. B6, B6, 100 milligrams daily. Manganese, 15 milligrams to 30 milligrams. Stress reduction, the avoidance of vitamins with high copper contents. So that's what he's talking about. As we get down there to the bottom of that, that's what he's talking about right there. We'll get to it in a minute, but I didn't know exactly what he was talking about with that one. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemens, DC. We're finishing up the RECODE conversation and the book, The End of Alzheimer's, tonight. And we were just finishing up Keto Flex 312 diet. So very simple. You're going to have complex carbohydrates with your meat and your eggs, and you're going to have your berries and nuts from a tree, right? It's the same thing we talk about. You're going to try not to eat anything 3 hours before you go to bed and 12 hours from there. And if you're dealing with any health problems, you're going to push it on to 4 more hours if you can. And you're going to do that 3 or 4 days a week if you can. It would be good. Get good sleep. Decrease stress. There's so many ways to decrease stress. John Kabat-Zinn has a book, Mindfulness. That's a cool book. Maybe we'll bring that on the show here soon. Dr. DeMartini, Dr. John DeMartini, if you can look him up on YouTube, John DeMartini. The Breakthrough Experience was one of the best things I ever did, for stress. He's the one that taught me what happens when you cut a magnet in half. You get 2 magnets. And that he's the one that taught me we are the light of the world, right? I'll actually share that with you real quick because I think it's super cool. Because he asked the question, what happens when you cut a magnet in half? You have a positive and a negative pole. So you cut it in half, you get 2 magnets. I know that sounds like it's a smart aleck answer, but it's not. Got positive and negative and positive and negative. And then you cut that magnet in half and you get 2 more magnets. Positive and negative and positive and negative. And then you cut that magnet in half and then that one in half and then that one in half. And you get down to that thinnest slice all the way down to the end to where you find out that your positives and your negatives are right next to each other, and they always are. And that's what Dr. DeMartini taught me. And so it was like, I see what you're saying. It took me a long time to work through it. I had to break down a lot of stuff in my life that I had this charge about, but this idea that life is balanced. It's like half your day was great and half of it was awesome. And the other part he does is he shows the sine wave. And we are the light of the world, right? And this is the sine wave. And there's a negative and there's a positive in the sine wave. And the point that's in the middle has neither positive nor negative. And that's the peace, the love. And so our days are actually balanced. And I had this conversation with one of my girls yesterday, and she said, yeah, I've got to actually work on rebalancing my life. And I was like, nope. You don't have to rebalance your life because your life is already balanced. You just have to recognize the balance. And I know it's maybe philosophical or whatever in this particular thing, but still, it's like I'm gonna realize that half of my day was awesome and half my day sucked. Not all of my days sucked and not all of my day was awesome. It's balanced. It's like God didn't disappear, so I just need to see both sides of the magnet. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. When I do, I'm very peaceful and calm, and I don't have very much sympathetic stress. When I don't, then I get all one way or the other. And so half the people like you, and half the people don't. And I had that experience this week. It hurts my heart, but I had a person that came in that maybe she doesn't feel like that this is the place for her. And I'm really sad that that's the case. But I'm sad from the middle. I just want to stay in the middle where the peace and the love is. And I can look down and say, you know what, that was unfortunate that worked out that way. Or I can look up and I can say, that's fortunate that looked out that way, but I'm going to stay in the middle, right? So that's what Dr. DeMartini taught me about balancing stress. And I worked through it, and I worked through it, and I worked through it, and then finally I got to the point where I was like, I see what he's talking about right there. And so you just calm things down. Definitions and strategies was the other thing I learned. I learned that from Scott Latham. He's a counselor here in Lubbock. And I met with Scott for 2 years, I think, on a Friday. And he's the one that taught me the definitions and strategies. So one of the ladies made the comment, we just have to get some of this stress out of our life. And I'm like, or we have to change our definition of what this is, right? Because you could change your definition of it quickly. And if you change your definition of the stress, that's one way that you can decrease your stress. So I mentioned 3 things right there, right? John Kabat-Zinn, mindfulness, Dr. DeMartini, the breakthrough experience, and then the definitions and strategies. Those are 3 things that you can actively do to decrease your stress. The next one on there is brain training. And these are mental exercises or Brain HQ. And I think that's a software or an app or something like that. Mental exercises. Leslie, she plays all kinds of word games on her phone. Like she's always trying to spell a word or do another word. Her grandmother did that all the way to 97. She did crossword puzzles and she played bingo. And she was always doing stuff with her mind. It was really, really amazing. So just train your mind. And Dr. Amen's total focus exercise that we went over last night, that's a way to actually, train your brain. It's something that you can do. We were talking about it this morning in the workout. We had the workout was what we did is we had 3 3-minute stations. The first 3 minutes we rode the bike or the rower for 3 minutes, and then the second 3 minutes we did kind of a little circuit. We did box step ups, and then we did push press basically, and dumbbell rows off the bench. We actually did those today, the dumbbell rows. And then we did overhead carries with the medicine ball. And then we did that for 3 minutes. So I think we did 12 step-ups, 8 the dumbbell rows with each hand, and then 2 laps with the overhead carries. And we did that for that whole 3 minutes. We just kept doing it until the 3 minutes was up. And then the last 3 minutes, we got back on the rower and the bike. So, and then we took a little 2-minute rest and we just repeated the whole thing over. Well, so that you had to think, right? You had to think while you were working out. You had to think about which station you were on. You had to think about how many reps you were doing. You had to think about what the next movement was. And some of us got lost in the workout. We got lost in the workout because we weren't totally focused about what we were doing. We were thinking about other things. We didn't really pay attention to the instructions in the beginning. Whatever, all those things that distract us, and we got a little tired. All those things but we were working our brain, and that's what I made the point to the group that was working out. Is like one of the many things I love about CrossFit is the methodology is neurological as well as physical on your body. It's not just a get on the treadmill and walk for 30 minutes. It's not that. Not saying that there's not some benefit of getting on the treadmill and walking for 30 minutes, but I'm saying that you can also incorporate brain training. So what were we doing this morning? We were fending off Alzheimer's disease. It was like we were moving ourselves, we were decreasing our chances of getting Alzheimer's disease because we were training our brain and our body, which went up here in the Keto Flex thing with low-carb diet and 150 minutes of exercise and fasting. So when they say to me, man, my leg is sore or my knee is sore or whatever, I don't have very much sympathy for them. to tell you the truth. And the reason I don't have enough, I love them all, but the reason I don't have as much sympathy for them is because I don't care if your knee is hurting a little bit because you're keeping yourself from having Alzheimer's. Like you're fighting off Alzheimer's right now. So get on the rower or get on the bike and let's go. Let's go. Move. Move. I know your knee hurts. I know it does. But it's going to hurt me worse if you end up with Alzheimer's. So it's like, yes. And you see how all these things, they're daily activities that we're doing that's making us stay away from chronic disease. That's what this list is. I love the whole method of it. And then after brain training, it gets into decreased inflammation. What are the two things that we're going to do at the Rock Health and Wellness Center? This comes from studying this stuff since 2009. When a person tells me, "Oh, I tried fish oil, it doesn't work," it's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I've got some friends, they said the same thing. We were talking about it, and we tried fish oil, and it doesn't work. And it's like, I heard that comment today, actually. And I was like, well, and it was a genuine comment. I'm not talking trash about the comment. It was a genuine comment, but it's like, no, look here. Every health book that I read, every health guy that I follow, going back, Dean Ornish and the guys in the zone diet and all the stuff from Jack LaLanne. How far back you want to go? We could go all the way back, right? It's like, keep your inflammation under control. Keep your inflammation under control. And I'll show you this. So I have a friend that's dealing with some issues. And I ask him, "Are you taking your fish oil?" And he's like, "No, not recently." He said, "I'm getting tested to see if I have an inflammatory problem with my blood vessels that is treatable with steroids." And that's what he said to me. I think we're running some tests to see if what I have is an inflammatory problem with my blood vessels that's treatable with steroids. And I said, "How much fish oil have you been taking?" And the answer was, "Not much lately." And I'm like, okay, so what did I do? I said, all right, I actually wrote it right here, and it's right here on the screen. How do steroids work? I just Googled it. And I let AI answer it for me, and it says it right here. The anti-inflammatory properties of steroids have been attributed to their inhibitory effect on the action of phospholipase A2, an enzyme critical to the production of inflammatory compounds. I'll say it again. Anti-inflammatory properties of steroids. You go get a cortisone shot. You go get it steroids, right? Prednisone. They're going to give you some of that stuff to decrease your inflammation, right? How does it work? Just ask Google, how does it work? It works because of its inhibitory effect on the action of phospholipase A2. So you know what I did? I just asked Google, does EPA inhibit phospholipase A2? That was my next one. So I went down there and I said, my next search was, does EPA inhibit phospholipase A2? And here's what it said. The AI overview said, yes, EPA, which is what we have from fish oil, can inhibit phospholipase A2, an enzyme that releases arachidonic acid from cell membranes, a process that leads to the production of inflammatory molecules. It's like you're in the hospital because you possibly, there's other things that could be going on, and there's a lot of issues with that. You possibly could have an inflammatory blood vessel problem that you're feeling pretty good about yourself because you get to treat that with steroids, when if you just took your fish oil, you probably would solve that problem before you ever got there. Like, that's just a choice. That's a choice that people make every single day. And when we're controlling inflammation, I think sometimes people think that I'm silly by the way that I talk about fish oil. And if we've done 300 shows on this show, we've probably mentioned fish oil 200 times, right? It's like, this is not silly. This is grown people stuff right here. Like, fish oil is grown people, mature people, adult human being stuff. This is for people who are serious about things. This is not a bubble gum. Like, this is not just like some. It's like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, what do you think this stuff is? It's 1,950 milligrams of EPA per teaspoon in this liquid gold right here. 1,950 milligrams of EPA that can inhibit phospholipase A2, the enzyme that releases arachidonic acid, which arachidonic acid will end up with a prostaglandin E2 and will have inflammation. How many times have we gone over that? Right? Take your fish. I know you guys do. I know you guys that listen to the show on a regular basis take your fish oil. I know you do. I know last night I took 4,000 milligrams of fish oil. And I've been doing that. I've upped my fish oil from 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams here in the last several weeks. So I know that you guys do, but there's a lot of people out there that don't understand that. That's one simple thing. That's one thing that a person could do that would move themselves away from Alzheimer's disease. One simple thing that a person could do is they could take their fish oil, whether they felt any different or not. Because saying that I don't know if I felt any better. You're only talking about 50% at best of your nervous system. Yeah, I'm not. Sometimes I'm not trying to get off, and I'm sure not trying to be a smart aleck. I'm just saying that you can. If you're excited that you could treat it with steroids, why don't you treat it with fish oil and then get on with your life and get out there and do something instead of being sick? That's just an opinion, I guess. All right, let's get back to it. It's going to take the whole show. Healing the gut. Healing the gut is a huge deal when it comes to health. Healing the gut is something that you will do, and it's not just the gut itself, it's the microbiome, it's the bacteria and all the other things that are inside your gut, and making sure that the balance of good bacteria and bad bacteria is handled properly. That's what it's talking about right there. So healing the gut happens when you quit attacking the gut, and mostly with processed foods, alcohol, medications, sometimes overabundance of red meat. I really think that has to do. I don't know so much if that's true or if it's not true, and if it has anything to do with grass-fed or grain-fed meat. But some of those things are the things that cause leaky gut, and we've done leaky gut shows here on the show. But you got to get your gut healthy. If you just start eating good foods, exercising, doing the right things, even some fermented foods or some like sauerkraut and that type of stuff is good for the gut. Those are things that will help. Hormonal balance. Hormonal balance gets tricky, especially with women, um, but that's a part of it, and you need to make sure that you're balancing your hormones the best that you can. And then metal homeostasis, and I was reading that during the break for you guys that were on the radio. And metal homeostasis is, I'll just read it again. A hormonal balance is thyroid, estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, those things, that adrenal function. Those are all things that Dr. Bredesen goes over in his book. The metal homeostasis, it says, I'm just going to read this chapter again. Medical dogma holds that Alzheimer's disease is not caused by metals such as mercury, infections, hypothyroidism, low levels of vitamin D, or apparently anything else. As I explained in Chapter 4, however, there's clear evidence that cognitive decline, including Alzheimer's disease, is caused by an imbalance between synapse-preserving and synapse-destroying processes, and that dozens of factors can decrease the former and accelerate the latter, in many cases by acting directly or indirectly on amyloid precursor protein. The evidence is clear that amyloid precursor protein responds to metals such as iron, copper, and zinc. So he's saying that's metal homeostasis. That's keeping your metals balanced and making sure that that's handled properly. And then the last one he has on the list is toxins, trying to stay away from toxins. And it's really hard to do. There's lots of it, especially in West Texas. When the wind blows, we're toxic. So there's a lot of toxins and a lot of things that we can deal with. One of the things that Dr. Bredesen points out, of the 36 influencers on those receptors, if we can get most of them covered, even though we don't get all of them covered, we've got a way better chance. If we can get most of them covered, then the few that are left over have very little chance of making us bad enough to have Alzheimer's disease. And just real quickly, I want to show you these slides just because of the difference, the different kinds of, there's 3 types basically of Alzheimer's according to Dr. Bredesen. And I'm not going to get into all the details of all of them, but type 1 Alzheimer's is inflammatory, okay? So, and then this gets into the ApoE4, and that's in your genetics, and it has a lot to do with what your percentage of chance of getting Alzheimer's is, the number of this ApoE4 gene that you have, or allele. So, but the inflammatory part is the increased C-reactive protein, the inflammatory responses, the decrease in the ratio of albumin and globulin in your blood, increasing interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor, and insulin resistance. And then he says there's a type 1.5, which he calls the sweet, or the glycotoxic. Chronically increased glucose, increased insulin. Insulin is no longer neurotropic or trophic. It's not helping. It's not nurturing the neurons anymore. The second one is the cold type of Alzheimer's, and this is where you get into the hormones. You get low levels of hormones: thyroid, adrenal, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and pregnenolone. Low vitamin D, insulin resistance, increased homocysteine. And then the third type is the toxic type, and that's where you get into the toxic. It's overlooked, and it's a lot of times diagnosed with something else. It's diagnosed as something else because they don't understand the toxic part of it right there. So, all your hormones get off, your HPA axis is off. That's number 5 on the list. And that, you see, that's another one of those things that we tied together over and over again because we've talked about the right hemisphere and the HPA axis, and the overactivation of the HPA axis. And here's another tie-in to it. Because now, with this hormone imbalance, your thyroid, your adrenal glands and your thyroid have a very close relationship in function. And so if your adrenal glands are firing all the time, your thyroid is going to be compromised as well to a certain extent. So, and is your adrenal gland firing all the time if you're in the right hemisphere firing? You see how it all fits together? I mean, we're talking about Alzheimer's disease, and we're talking about the same exact things that we talk about on every other show that that we do to when we're talking about, you know, everything else that it's just the same thing over and over and over again. It's like, here's the problems with Alzheimer's disease. Da 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 da. Yep, that's high levels of inflammation, insulin resistance, all those things, right? And then we could talk about cancer, and then it could be like da 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 da. And then we could talk about heart disease, and it'd be the same list. And then we could talk about acid reflux, and it'd be the same list, right? That's all I got for that. Tomorrow night at 6, we'll be back, and we'll have a new topic. We'll talk about something besides Alzheimer's, but that's a good cover for the last 2 nights, and maybe that helps somebody avoid Alzheimer's disease. That's all I got for you tonight. You guys have a great evening. Thanks for watching this show and listening. We'll be back tomorrow night.